And we get to RM, our dear leader. Okay, so this is a series. We're going through the songwriting styles, the creative preferences of BTS members as individual artists, and we are on RM. Just a caveat, if I get anything wrong, especially when it comes to their lyrics, because I'm not a native speaker, Korean language speaker, please just go ahead and let me know, correct me. I would love to learn from you. But if you do end up liking this video, please give it a thumbs up. Of course, like and subscribe, and hit that notification button so that you know when there's a new video getting published, and share the video if you can, because that's really helping my channel. Thank you. Okay, let's get on with the video. RM uses mathematical equations when writing his lyrics. This is a new level of creativity and genius. The word he is one of the most commonly used words in Korea because it is used to conjugate a noun into a verb. For example, 공부 means study. In English, that could be both a noun and a verb. But in Korea, it is just a noun. But if you add he, it becomes an action word. He could also mean harm, sun, year, and many more. RM likes using he as a variable in a bar or a line. This means depending on the meaning that you put in the word he, the line could also have different meanings. For example, in the song Voice from his very first mixtape, there's a line that says, "I had no dream. Like my lyrics, it's like that every day. The mathematical functions and equation that could not give me an answer. In the end, they became many he. It makes it impossible to see the stars hidden behind the light. Day by day, I killed myself slowly like that. Meaninglessly obsessing all day on being graded like a cut of beef." If he means harm, he would be saying that math functions and equations that we're supposed to give him answers actually harmed him. But if he means sun, he would be saying that math functions and equations gave him exact answer. It was so clear and so bright that it blinded him and he couldn't see his correct path. If he means disservice, he would be saying that math function and equations actually damaged him and he couldn't march on towards the direction he was supposed to go. One word, three possible meanings, one line. In Favorite Girl, there are lines that say, "My favorite girl. I didn't want to be your he anymore, so I became the moon that only rises in the dark night." In here, if he means sun, he would be saying he wants to be the sun that guides her in her darkest days. If he means harm, he would be saying he doesn't want to harm her anymore, so he will just be the source of her light from a distance. Again, simply by replacing the meaning of one word, you will have two different interpretations. I know some people are just going to say this is just wordplay, which is just as impressive, but it isn't. Wordplay is using one word and bending it to mean different things. What he is doing is constructing a sentence that can change meaning depending on a single variable. He even posted his formula the first time he did it. Yes, he posted a picture of how he envisioned it in his mind. He doesn't just write his thoughts, he encompasses a whole spectrum of emotions. And all it takes is one word with different meanings. Musica poetica, or poetry of culture. RM seems to use his music like it's culture's poetry. He articulates poetically, of course, the different elements of Korean culture and youth culture. I say poetry because his musings aren't necessarily an expression of anger or protest. They aren't necessarily complaints. They're more like an articulation of the rhythm of life as he experiences it. His albums have a certain cadence, both in message and tempo. There's a certain flow that serves to establish a certain narrative, but also a certain musicality, so it's not just the story you're following, but also the tempo, the melody. His first mixtape started with Voice, a literal intro on who he is. The next track, Do You, involves the audience, like it's a conversation of some sort. Awakening addresses specific groups of people, from haters to friends to bystanders. And then in Joke, he goes back to introducing himself, but this time doing so from an emotional perspective. So it's like a deeper dive into who he is. And then he goes back into addressing other people, but instead of a conversation, he deals with how he sees other people. And then in life, he actually goes back to a conversation as he nears the closing of the album. Even in tempo of the song and the beats, he goes from slow to fast to medium tempo and then back again. Indigo had a more pronounced flow in terms of message. He started the album talking about fighting to keep his artistry sincere and real. He progressed to talk about the different challenges that he encounters and the different emotions he had to deal with before ending it with number 2, a song about moving on from what has been done so that he can start the process again. He opens the album with Yun, a song that seemed to have established how he have lost his way in this magnificent artistic journey. But there's this one thing, the truth that's actually keeping him on the right track. He then goes on about moving forward and continuing to live in still life as he fights to find his own style and not get lost in all the trends and the popularity in all day. He goes on to discuss the different challenges he encounters, from an inner challenge in Forgetful, the pain of wanting something but being unable to get it with Closer, to the natural challenge that change brings with the song Change. Later on in the album, he closes with Flowerworks and number 2. Flowerworks was more a confrontation, or maybe the acceptance that it is his job to keep himself anchored and in place. And then he closes it with number 2. In many of his interviews, he actually said that there is a certain flow in the tempo of the album. He said that the first 3 songs were very rap heavy. Then 4th, 5th, and 6th tracks were more grounded in local sound. And then 7, 8, 9, and 10 were all grand in terms of sound, melody, instruments, and beats. Being the primary lyricist in majority of BTS's songs, it's no wonder BTS has kept the same foundation in every album. I know some will say that the agency itself is involved in the development of the concept, but the narrative is maintained in BTS's lyrics, many of which are written by RM. Literary immersion. RM pulls you into literature, Asian and Western. He doesn't just refer to certain words or titles, he uses the narrative as a foundation of his and BTS's songs. Many ARMYs are familiar with Damien, the jump-off point of Wings. But many new ARMYs aren't aware that the most beautiful moment in life, a very important era for BTS, was actually inspired by a Korean book titled It's Youth Because It Hurts. It was written by Rando Kim, a professor in Seoul National University and a graduate of Harvard University. The book was about young people, how they should follow their dreams, even if it isn't what society expects of them. It also talks about how failure shouldn't mean defeat, and how young people should use their age as an ammunition to keep on trying because they have their whole life ahead of them. These are good messages, and probably that's why it was very successful in the beginning. It also sounded very similar to the messages of The Most Beautiful Moment in Life. However, the initial success of the book turned sour when people learned that the author of the book was actually born with a silver spoon. So they thought it was very hypocritical of him to be writing about hardships when he didn't experience it. Eventually, the title of the book became a popular expression. Whenever young people complain about their hardships, old people will just respond, "It's youth because it hurts." It means you should stop complaining because you have your whole life ahead of you to make things right. This is an important dynamic because it adds another layer to The Most Beautiful Moment in Life series. Another thing to note is that the actual title itself, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life, is often associated with youth. One of the most memorable songs in the album is Young Forever. For the newer armies who don't know, the literal translation of the character you see on the album is flower appearance year blooming. In other words, the year the flower blooms. This is associated with one's youth, the start of your premium years. However, it isn't actually necessarily your younger years. It just refers to the most beautiful moment of your life. That could be anywhere or anytime. Could be 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. It doesn't really matter. It also doesn't necessarily mean it's a happy moment. Pain, sadness, and trials could also be beautiful because it makes you grow. RM actually dove deep into the concept in his first mixtape in the song Do You. RM talked about how many of us fall into the trap of following advice from people who didn't go through the things we're going through. Just like how Rando Kim wrote a book advising people about something he never experienced. Understanding that is going to give you a new perspective on the lyrics, and many of the songs were actually written by RM. Songs like I Need You, Converse High, and Boys with Fun are often perceived to be light and fun, or it's about love. But knowing the background makes you understand that the songs are depictions of what young people go through, including the mundane and the mistakes. The progression of the trilogy perfectly depicts a person's growth. From themes of fun and love to themes of trouble, confusion, and growing up. And in each song, RM writes fully engrossed in the present. He doesn't really look at the future because that's what you feel when you're going through your hardest. You feel and see the present. You don't really think about the future. It is very, very hard to see all the years ahead of you, which is what old people keep on rubbing on the faces of young people. This is part of the reason that series was so successful. It perfectly depicted the sentiments of many young people in the prime of your youth. Exactly when you have all the time in the world to prepare and plan for the life that you will have when you grow older is also exactly the time of your life when you really can't see anything but the place where you're at. You can't live any kind of life but the life that you are having. Another novel he referred to was Rimbud's A Season in Hell in his song Awakening. Rimbud is a French poet. A Season in Hell is his most popular work, but it was highly criticized when it came out. It actually mirrors the journey of BTS and of RM. They were looked down upon in the beginning, but they have changed the global music landscape forever. Just like Rimbud managed to influence literature globally. RM's lyrics, however, indicate 4 seasons in hell instead of a season in hell. Korea has, of course, 4 seasons in a year. The first mixtape was written up until BTS's first year, which is 2015. This was when BTS got a lot of hate from various Korean hip-hop communities, and it would have been a difficult year. He was getting dissed left and right. BTS's career also wasn't gaining the kind of traction they thought that they would get. His reference to Rimbud was more than just a nod. It was some sort of a mantra or a promise, which he managed to communicate in one line. Perspective. RM also likes shifting his perspective, something we need to learn not just in our creative work, but also in life in general. It allows him to view something with a wider and different perspective. It's not always good or happy, but it is always enlightening. In the song Tokyo, he actually longs for Seoul. If you write Tokyo in kanji, it would actually read Dongkyong in Korean. It is a homonym of a Korean word that means missing something or someone. RM in this song situates himself in Tokyo, a city very similar in Seoul in terms of density and maybe even architecture. But he still talks of longing for home. It's an interesting perspective, but it's familiar to everybody. How many times have we encountered a dog that looks so much like our dog who passed away? Instead of mending our broken heart, it can just make us miss our dog even more. How many times do we smell a fragrance a friend used to wear? It only makes us miss our friend more. RM makes us realize that there's something comforting and also painful in familiarity. Interestingly enough, in the next song, Soul, he talks of how strange he feels being in Seoul, even though it was already his home. He misses Ilsan, where he came from, but doesn't live in anymore. Taken individually, these two songs seem to be songs of longing for the familiar, but simply by removing himself in the place where he is at, he manages to pose an important question. Does home really exist? Or is home, if you really think about it, fragments of us we find and leave in different places we go to or experiences we go through? Another great change in perspective is still life. RM explains still life could mean different things. You will see those different perspectives if you look at everything exactly from where RM was in the video. Sit inside a train and look outside and let that sink in just a little bit longer than you usually do. The blurry trees dissolving into buildings, dissolving into roads, dissolving into the sea, dissolving into houses. It's going to give you, oddly enough, a clear idea on how fast you are moving. But look inside the train, and everything is still. Just by turning your head a little, just to let the world sink in your eyes. Just a tad bit of shift in your perspective, and you will gain a better understanding of the seamless complexity and speed of life. This could be the most beautiful reality show we're witnessing. RM's music is like a movie series or really a reality show. It's not really surprising for someone who really draws out of his own experiences to create his art. What's interesting is how he laid it out. It feels like I'm traveling back into the beginning of cinema and working my way to the present. RM, in his first mixtape, sound exactly like the cover. Everything was black and white. Things were despicable or reasonable. There's love or hate. You're either a friend or an enemy. It's either black or white. There's nothing in between, and this was written, according to his lyrics, a year into BTS's debut. Things weren't easy, and one of the things making it harder for him was the hate he was getting from underground rappers who were accusing him of selling out for fame. And of course, criticisms from other idols who were looking down on him for not looking like an idol. The rage, confusion, and eagerness to prove himself were boiling, and his emotions were very, very extreme. Several years have passed, and they have some successes in their pockets. He came out with Mono. And it's interesting to see and hear how the sound in the lyrics drastically changed from everything being extreme. Now, everything seems to be gray, smooth, steady. The melodies were easy to listen to, and his lyrics were beautifully, soothingly poetic. Both the lyrics and the melodies didn't progress drastically within each of the song and throughout the entire album. It felt like he was fleshing out each emotion rather than telling a story with twists and turns. The songs were just musings of sentiments, from missing home in Tokyo and Seoul, to being someone's source of light in the darkest of night in Moonchild, to parting with someone or something in Bad Bye, to missing your destiny in All Good, to assuring himself things will pass, to finally wanting a good release of pain in Forever Rain. It felt like he was immersing himself in each of the emotion, instead of experiencing an epic journey. But Indigo felt like a new start. He felt a little more certain. He hasn't really found yet his creative destination, but it sounded like he knew the direction he was going. And wordplay. I didn't want to do this because if there's something the world knows about RM, it's actually his brilliance in wordplay. The guy is a writer by heart. Words are like a toy he plays with to his heart's content. People talk about his wordplay as soon as the songs are released, but for the sake of newer armies, I'll go through some of his wordplays in his older songs. In Awakening, there's a line that says, "Now just come give me an EXO. Come and bring me your next soul. Endless cynical smile, but I'm Rimbod. The 4 seasons in hell." He actually used the words ne and chol. Ne could mean your or the number 4. And jol could actually mean metal, primarily sharp ones that could cut and harm. But it could also mean season. So the line could mean your weapon from hell or 4 seasons from hell. He was either referring to someone trying to push him to his death or hell, or about himself spending a year in hell. In the song Soul, there's a line that says, "The people who must always wonder, and the Han River that holds too much Han in its heart." Han can actually mean profound pain or a deep sorrow. It could also be the famous Han River in Seoul. As beautiful as this river is, there's a lot of people who actually go to Han River to bury their sorrow. You can read between the lines. So RM is actually feeling some empathy for the beautiful Han River that is forced to hide so much of Korea's pain. In Monster, there's a line that says, "It's so chaotic, no matter how hard I try to explain the things that destroyed me when I was just being nice. Where those effing bastards thoughtless talks." He actually used the word 18 to replace the F word because in Korea, 18 is actually shipal, which sounds like shibal, which is the F word in Korea. In the song In Life, there's a line that goes, "Life, fall in love, life gets hurt by people, and feels lonely from the wind." The word wind could also mean an affair in Korean. So it's actually a double entendre. He could be saying it feels lonely from the cold air. Or he could be saying that falling in love with someone that isn't yours could feel lonely. If there's anything I wish RM would do outside of release more solo music and of course come back with BTS, is for him to actually write a book. I think he's going to be a great author, whether it's going to be fiction or an analysis on his favorite artists or artworks or whatever it is. I'm sure he's going to be great. So I hope that he does that in the future. I'm pretty sure that even if, for example, in an alternative universe, he did not discover music and rap, I think words will still pull him because that's where he belongs. He's really a writer. That's his thing. And I am so thankful that I've gotten the privilege of actually being able to listen to his lyrics and his raps and the music that he creates. I will be most likely going back to RM. Of course, the 3 members who have been writing the most and the longest always get more of the analysis because they have more materials. But I'll just finish the rest of the BTS members. Okay, I would love to hear your thoughts though. I'm sure you have your own contributions. Maybe I'm wrong in some things. I would love to learn. Please leave them in the comment section below. As always, you can say anything that you want to say. For as long as you say it respectfully, we're good. Of course, you can get in touch with me in any of the social media links that you see on your screen right now, and many of you do. I'm so thankful. Please don't forget to follow me on Twitter because I'm converting that account into an Asian entertainment account, and I will put all the personal stuff in just IG. All right, and if you ended up liking the video, please consider liking and of course subscribe and hit that notification button and share the video if you can. It's really helping my channel. Thank you. I appreciate you. And next up would be Jimin.